Welcome to Behind Blizzard's Music.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Behind Blizzard's Music. I'm Derek Duke, music director here at Blizzard Entertainment. I'm here with our in-house music department. We've got Glenn Stafford, our principal composer. Leo Kaliski, music assistant, but also a composer in his own right. And Adam Burgess, another composer. You've been hearing a ton of their music already, featured in the opening ceremonies, as well as a lot of other people's great music. So what we have for you today is a walk through a whole bunch of music, and we're going to try and give you an insight into what it takes to put together the music that we produce for all of the development teams here at Blizzard. We're going to go through and explain a little, and I'll talk to each one of these guys about what they do, and then followed by that, we're going to do a performance about what they've been talking about. So we're going to talk through a World of Warcraft piece, a Heroes piece, a little bit of Overwatch, and the Overwatch League. So one other thing I wanted to mention is that as composers and what we do at Blizzard, we spend a lot of time in our rooms with computers, just kind of working on our own. We're not by nature performers per se. So we're here, we're playing with backing tracks, with recordings of the orchestras and things we do. We are playing live, so we're not like faking or anything like that, but we're doing our best. We're coming out here because we do this once a year. We love to do it for you. But we're just coming out and letting you know that we're doing this with the backing tracks, just being very upfront what we're doing. And these are all 100% new arrangements. You're hearing them first. They're for you. And with that, starting off, I want to talk about work on World of Warcraft and Battle for Azeroth with Glenn Stafford. He's done an arrangement of Return to Arms as a piece that he wrote for Battle for Azeroth. And Glenn, if you want to tell us a little bit about how you put that together for us.
Sure. Well, thanks, Derek. A Return to Arms is a callback to an earlier piece of music before World of Warcraft, if you can imagine that. Early in Warcraft history, somewhere in the Warcraft 3 era. This piece was for a trailer, a cinematic trailer. It was a great looking piece, and we had to do kind of a rush job to get it written quick, recorded and out the door and ready to mix just in a couple of few short days. So I remember spending late nights working on that.
And that was a collaboration, if I recall.
That was a collaboration, yes. Actually, I have to give a lot of credit for this piece to Jason Hayes for the thematic ideas in it. We did collaborate on it. We did a ton of arranging. We ended up recording choir parts ourselves, singing each part, just dozens of tracks to make it this large, male choir sound. Interestingly, it's the piece of music you heard quite a bit in the opening ceremony when Mike was standing there with Jay Allen and.
Right, I think
I think everyone's
Battle
heard
for Azeroth too, the cinematic.
Probably everyone's heard it if you know anything about Warcraft. So I'll just play a little bit of the original melody and chords. Are we getting into the house or? Okay. Anybody recognize that? 3 people? Yeah. Cool. So that was the original melody, a part of it anyway. Out of that piece of music came actually a lot of different pieces of music that have touched on it. There's another bit from it that's does this. Anybody recognize that? And then that made its way into World of Warcraft in Shaping of the World, I think it was called on the original vanilla soundtrack. So that it kept going through different chords. there's that. For this Return to Arms, it's a nod to classic red and blue orcs and humans, Horde and Alliance, from dating way back to Warcraft 2 era even. Pulled some musical ideas. There's a human piece from Warcraft 1 that's it's snuck its way in there a bit. Oops. Put both headphones
Definitely
in,
people who
so
recognize that, right?
So that's a little human one, and even got some orc bass line in there a little bit from one of the Warcraft 2 pieces. And the little licks that went along with that. That's kind of stuff you'll hear all over the orc music. So this was just a mashup of a lot of nostalgic ideas and also reimagined with new chords, new harmony, so yeah, reharmonized. Similar melody, not exactly the same. Now it's, instead of, it does this. So, and it goes on from there, and I don't know
what. When you change the chords like that, does that change the emotion, or how does that?
Oh yeah, to give it a little bit more of a seafaring, piratey feel for this expansion. Definitely had that emphasis, as well as the callback to classic red and blue. And it was a lot of fun to work on and to reimagine, and people seem to really react to it well. And it. It's a little bit slower than the original, and Leo even did an alternate version of it with elements from it that we use here for this exclusive BlizzCon version as an intro to it. So it's a nice, slow-moving intro that helps set it up.
So would you say this is a common approach for us to take these themes and match them up for our typical WoW music?
Yeah, it happens a lot. It's not with everything. We do like to introduce new themes, and there's constantly new areas and characters and everything being added. At the same time, we want to maintain our, musical sound, our musical identity, with the connection over the years, dating back to all the earliest Warcraft, or for whatever franchise we're working in. In this case, yeah, Warcraft.
Cool. I'm sure everybody's anxious to hear this new arrangement. So we're going to play Return to Arms for you. This is a BlizzCon exclusive, new arrangement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Glenn Stafford. Next up, I'd like to talk about the Heroes franchise and that music. Heroes is a great franchise in that it touches all of our franchises, and it gives us that opportunity to draw on music from all of our work, to dig into the history and that rich archive of all that music from Diablo 1, from Warcraft, from the early StarCraft music we have, and all that. So Leo's put together a great piece for us, and that's makes up from Battle of the sorry, give me the piece.
Battle Begins?
Battle Begins, yeah, from Battle Begins and Alterac Pass. And then we're going to talk about home screening, but I wanted Glenn to just demo really quickly a little bit of Battle Begins. It's such an anthemic piece, and it has a really great sort of extended and just a wonderful melody, and I'm going to open this up, and it's going to demo that for us. There we go.
Put it on bar 1. All right, there we go. So, yeah, Battle Begins was sort of not quite the main title, but sort of, I'll call it the main anthem, or yeah, it was an anthem for Heroes of the Storm. Interesting thing about it, it's just 3 notes, basically. It's more than 3 notes, but the initial idea is a 3-note melodic phrase that repeats, and then it grows from there, and it all kind of came out of that. Simple chords and melody, starting on the, oh, and yeah, with the chords, it starts on the initial chord, the home bass, I call it, and it works its way around for a while. It takes you on a journey, and then it finally comes back to the home bass. So it's interesting harmonically as well as simple melody. So it's, yeah, this is the original idea was just this. So just that 3-note phrase, repeated, and then extended, and then the chords kind of helped dictate what, or the melody kind of helped dictate what the chords were going to be. And then everything else is built around that, lots of fast rhythms and big guitars and choir and everything. So when we did a special Blizzcon arrangement of the original Battle Begins plus esports version of Battle Begins plus Leo's Alterac Pass.
Cool. So I wanted to talk to Leo also about home screening, and that's sort of the music work that we do for Heroes is a bit different. And if you could walk us through that and how you sort of, that process for creating the music for Heroes.
Sure, so when we say home screening, what we mean is whenever a new character or event is added to Heroes of the Storm, it is displayed on the home screen of the game, and it needs custom music to match it, something that can bring this hero to life. We usually like to start with the base of music that is already related to the characters, since the characters are pulled from other franchises. So for Deckard Cain, it was Tristram from Diablo 2, because that's just iconic Deckard Cain music at this point. For White Mane, it was music from Scarlet Monastery in the Western Pluglands. And we take 1 or 2 of these tracks and we do special music edits, where we try to cut out just the most iconic parts from these themes and put them together for one concise piece of music that really encapsulates the character. And then at that point, it starts getting passed around the department as we start adding the sort of Heroes effect, the home screening that we kind of call it, where we add lots of synth sounds to it to sort of capture the sound of the Nexus. These are more spacey, crystally synths than you normally hear in Overwatch or really any other franchise. And then a lot of rock guitars. And guitar isn't a totally new thing, you know, that existed in StarCraft. That was more country rock, and this is more like metal rock. It's sort of turned up to another level. And so maybe one of us does a music edit, and then it gets passed to another person who adds synths, then another person who adds guitars, It goes through Glenn for feedback as the original Heroes composer. It goes through you for feedback, and just kind of makes this loop around the department. And you end up with a really collaborative experience that you don't get with any other Blizzard music.
Cool. So with Alterac Pass, it seems like the music for that didn't get the normal Heroes treatment. It ended up being a lot more orchestral, didn't have all the guitars and the synths and stuff like that. Is there a specific reason for that?
Yeah, so Alterac Pass sort of does the opposite of all this because it pulls from the original Alterac Valley PvP music from vanilla WoW. It's very old school WoW music, and so we wanted to keep that old feel to it. We really wanted to hit on the nostalgia of just orchestral music, just the big brass and the big strings, and really wanted to feel familiar to the character as they recognize it from the old times.
Cool. Were there any special moments in that music that were, like signature things or things that you really stuck out to you?
Yeah, so there's a couple themes that really stick out as sort of part of that original Alterac kit. Part of it is this chord progression.
So that doesn't sound like, so what are we hearing there? Like if we were hearing the Alterac Pass, what would the orchestra be doing for that in particular?
So in Alterac Pass, it's orchestra and it's on big brass chords, tuba, trimbasso, trombone, French horn, playing that just big and brassy and as loud as possible. And so for this arrangement, it really made sense to put that on big guitar chords. Just felt like sort of a natural pairing.
Cool. Something else?
Yeah. So there's this little ostinato, which comes from that original Alterac kit. And that was, again, it was low brass, sort of short trombones and tubas, but also strings, low cellos and basses. And that just really lended itself to be a guitar riff pretty easily. And it kind of leads to a little bit of this sort of prog rock guitar riff feel, which is really fun.
So were you working on it on your distorted guitar?
What was that?
When you were working on it, were you using the guitar?
Oh, a little bit. I mean, it really feels natural on a distorted guitar, so yeah.
Cool. Well, I think let's give it a shot. This is another all-new Heroes arrangement featuring for BlizzCon 2018 by Leo Kaliski. Thank you, Leo, Lan. So next up, I'm going to talk a little bit about Overwatch and talk with Adam Burgess. So one of the most common questions we get as composers, I know, is where does the inspiration come from? So talk with Adam about where does that inspiration come from? Where does it all start off? And like when you get that assignment, how do you start? How do you get that initial kickoff? Where do you begin? So if you could dig into that with us.
Yeah, it's a good question. You know, when an assignment comes through, it's often a daunting task, and it's hard to know where to start with it. I personally find that the most inspiring thing for me is looking at the artwork, especially the concept pieces. So we actually brought a couple of pieces along with us today, and I'll talk through them with you. The first one's Wrecking Ball, one of the latest Overwatch heroes. You know, when you get pitched the idea of a hamster hero for a game like Overwatch, it's hard not to think, you know, there's going to be something very cartoony. It's going to be something very comical and lighthearted. And then you look at this piece, and you kind of throw that all out the window. You know, as composers, we're always looking into the details and trying to bring characters and locations to life. So something as simple as his facial expression, you know, check it out. He's super determined. He's not smiling. He's not goofing around. He's not a comical hamster. This further gets established with cinematics, media, when we really dig into his origin story as a character. If you look at the mech ball, you have this, you know, robotic weaponry, and it's really highly weaponized. And, you know, that again goes against this comical idea of, you know, this character. So what I thought for Hammond is he needed this really big theme. He needed this theme that was very triumphant, very, you know, it's very orchestral. It feels like something that a hero should have. And he almost needed this huge theme to lift him up to the level of the other heroes because he's so small, you know? So that's him. On the other hand, we have maps. So if we bring up the next piece, which is this beautiful concept work from the Rialto map, once again, as composers, we're asking ourselves questions and trying to find the inspiration to write the, you know, correct music for this location. So when I look at this, I'm seeing all the small details, like there's a storefront across that canal. This is in Italy. It's based off Venice. And I'm starting to ask myself, you know, what would I want to hear if I was there? What do I want to feel like if I'm in this location? And if I'm on one of those gondolas, how does it make me feel as I'm floating around, you know? Am I happy? Is it romantic? And you kind of start putting this idea together in your head about, you know, the world we're creating and the right sounds that fit into it. And then it's a matter of just looking at the art and playing to it. And as soon as you feel like you're there, you take that kind of sound you've just hit and just extrapolate it into as much music as possible, pick out the best parts, and that becomes what you hear in the game.
So do you feel like you have to have the answers to those questions in your head before you actually sit down?
For me, personally, yes, because I don't want to get in a situation where I'm writing without context and without ideas and without understanding this hero or this map. And, you know, maybe I'll come up with an idea and I fall in love with it, but it's not right. So if I understand exactly what I want to write before I sit at the piano and try to figure it out, then I'm more likely to get the music right and convey the right emotion.
And we're talking about so we're talking about Hammond, a hero, and the map, Rialto. Are there different types of assets you're creating or type of stuff you're writing for these two different kinds of situations?
Yeah, you know, with heroes, it's all about embodying the character in the music. If you looked at the Ashe cinematic from opening ceremony and her announcement trailer, she is the head of a biker gang. She's a badass. So she has country western music, she has rock-orientated music, it fits her character. Hammond needed a heroic theme. It's all about, you know, injecting that sound into the character to really bring them to life. With maps, it's about the location. So for this piece we've put together, which is Wrecking Ball and Rialto kind of in a medley, the Rialto section is inspired by Italian music, and you kind of take those elements from that region, and these are real musical cultures and real musical histories and traditional instruments, and you have to inject that into the sound of Overwatch that's been established for the last couple of years and try to find the right balance between the two of them. Yeah, it's a very different process for both.
Cool. And maps are different kind of asset, like just creating stuff mostly for in-game versus like the heroes mostly cinematic stuff?
Yeah, Heroes is mostly cinematic, origin stories, Overwatch, animated shorts, they're all hero-based. For maps, it's more, gameplay sizzle reels, which is where we have a fly-through of the map and it goes out on social media and YouTube. That's a really big one. Yeah, it's different. And then we have the menu screen for new heroes, menu screen for new maps. This all needs musical content. And when you're looking for these themes, the most important thing is that it works across all of these different mediums. We're not writing, minutes of unique music for all of them. We're trying to establish this one theme so that everything feels connected.
Cool. By the way, Adam scored his first episode. That was the Ash McCree episode that you all watched. So. Pretty awesome. So one other question. I know, like, in certain maps, like Dorado, they have the bells you can ring, and by playing certain melodies, you get achievements. Are there other Easter eggs and stuff like that we have in certain maps?
Yeah, we've found over time, the more music you put in the map, the more it comes alive. And that really hit home when we did the Blizzard World map, and you run around the theme park and you hear this iconic WoW music, StarCraft music, Diablo music, Heroes music. So we put a lot in Rialto. There's little things, just like if you run to the gelato store and you stand outside, if you're in a silent spot and no one's trying to attack you or anything, you'll hear music coming from the door there. Probably the most prominent one is if you jump on the boat in the canal, you hear this like sweeping, romantic, kind of Italian-inspired music that we put in, and that was super fun, but it wasn't our first take on the idea. So on the concept artwork you saw, you just kind of saw the gondola sitting there. But in-game, there's an Omnic, or robot. We call them Omnics in the Overwatch franchise. And he's standing on the back and he's rowing you along the gondola. And we had this cool idea like, oh my God, what would it sound like if he sang to you as you're floating around the map in this like robotic, operatic voice? And it was this thing we chased for like, a week, and me and Derek are in my room like messing around with like vocal synthesizers, and we're not lyricists, so we just thought like, okay, there's two words we can use. We can use the word Rialto, we know that much, and we can use the word canal. So we wrote this song, and we actually have it here for you. And yeah. Thanks. So, just judging by your reaction, you're laughing, you're smiling, you think it's hilarious. We also felt the same way. And as cool as this was, we just kind of felt like, do we want this to be comical? Do we want it to be funny? And we decided, we're going to chase this idea a little more. So, one day you might have a singing Omnic in the game, but for now it's just kind of a sneak peek into some of the things we come up with that, you guys never see.
Cool. So now we're going to do this special arrangement of Wrecking Ball and Rialto that Adam put together. Especially for you, a Blizzcon premiere. Oh. There you go. You've got a lot of noise.
Yeah, I think it's the cable maybe.
Thank you, Adam Burgess. So, one of the final things I wanted to talk about was esports. It's been a huge year for esports. Blizzard has always been a fan of esports. It's always been very important for Blizzard, and especially this year with the launch of the Overwatch League. Creating music for esports, we've always done special versions from all of our franchises and made an attempt to do that. But one thing we've never delved in so deeply is for the Overwatch League, creating an entirely, basically new brand of music for the Overwatch League. I don't know, how many people have watched the Overwatch League or any of the broadcasts? Any Overwatch League fans? Well, so we created this whole broadcast, basically, kit of music that's been broadcast around the world for Overwatch League. And we're going to share some of it with you now. Adam whipped up an arrangement of some of his music. He was responsible for creating that, also with some help from Trolls Fullman. And we're going to play that for you now, his what we call the sports version. And we'll give that a shot. Okay. Burgess and the guys. So thank you for spending some time with us today at Blizzard's Behind the Music. Before we go, I want to take time to acknowledge that it's not just us here who make the music for Blizzard. There's a whole slew of other people that create music for us. So you can see these people behind us. You might recognize some of them: Neil Acree, Sam Carden, Jerry Beck, Peter McConnell, Adam Gubman, Mark Petrie, Clint Pajakian, Troels Folman, David Arkenstone. All these people and more compose music for us. There's our producers who produce for us. There's the orchestrators. There's the engineers and recording studios. There's the hundreds and hundreds of musicians. All these people, there's our extended family at Blizzard, all these people whose shoulders we stand on, and we wouldn't be able to bring you the music that we do without them. There's our small little department. This is what all the music, this is all that music comes through here to get to you. Charlotte Moore and Liz Seminario are music producers. So once again, thank you for being here with us here at BlizzCon. Thank you, all of you out there in the, on the virtual ticket. Again, Adam Burgess, Leo Kaliski, Glenn Stafford, I'm Derek Duke. Thank you. Have a really great BlizzCon.